Debi tirar más fotos. I should have taken more photos. That's the latest record from Bad Bunny, and it's not just a record, it's a love letter to Puerto Rican culture and to the history and to the identity. And as someone who grew up feeling disconnected from my Puerto Rican roots, I'm half Puerto Rican. My mother's family is from Aguadilla, going back hundreds of years. This album really woke something up in me. It's really brought to the surface this need to reconnect with my heritage. So this video is going to be very different from my other videos. It's going to be very personal. I'm going to talk about my mother's family, who were from Puerto Rico. I'm going to share some pictures and some observations and share my feelings about being a Puerto Rican that's been disconnected from my culture. Let me start with some context. My grandparents on my mom's side left Aguadilla, Puerto Rico, and moved to Brooklyn in the 1920s. Aguadilla is this beautiful beach town on the west coast of Puerto Rico, as far away as you can get from the hustle and bustle of San Juan. But growing up, I didn't know much about it. I always pictured it as some undeveloped tropical area, and I was wrong. It turns out Aguadilla is stunning, and it's more like a California beach town with its own charm. My grandfather moved to Puerto Rico in 1925, and he moved there for work and later brought over my grandmother and their firstborn daughter within a year. And they went on to have 15 kids. I know, 15. My grandfather worked in a candy factory his entire life to support them. And can you imagine what that must have been like? I mean, life was simpler back then, but it must have been incredibly hard. And despite the struggles, they focused on assimilation. And my grandfather, one of my fondest memories, my grandfather even bragged about reading the Reader's Digest cover to cover every month in English. He was so proud of that. And it really stuck in my mind. He saw that I was a reader, and that's how we bonded. So, Grandpa Leo definitely missed. Growing up, though, this focus on assimilation meant Spanish wasn't spoken much in the house. My grandparents wanted their kids to succeed in America, so they prioritized English. As a result, I grew up with what some people refer to as a no sabe Nuyorican, meaning I don't speak Spanish and I'm disconnected from the Puerto Rican culture that often felt foreign to me. So when I first listened to Bad Bunny's record, Debi tirar más fotos, which translates to I should have taken more pictures, it felt like Bad Bunny was really speaking to multiple generations of people like me. And it's all about regret and longing for the moments that are in the past that you didn't capture and you didn't appreciate enough when they were happening. And for me, it means not just the personal memories of family gatherings, but also the cultural things like recipes that I never learned. There's a song called Café con Ron, which translates to coffee with rum. And it really is a beautiful marriage of the traditional rhythms of Puerto Rico, plena, with reggaeton, which is very contemporary and very modern. So listening to it made me think about how my grandmother used to make coffee. And, for so many of us, it's a morning ritual for us. She didn't say much. She was a woman of few words, but the coffee always filled the house. And it's those small things that really connect us to our roots. Another track that really resonated with me is Nueva York, which is slang for New York. And it talks about the immigrant experience, about leaving your homeland for better opportunities, but always carrying home in your heart. And that's what my grandparents did when they left Aguadilla for Brooklyn. Brooklyn was gritty. It was a very, very urban environment. And I know when I would visit, it seemed very harsh. And to think that you're leaving this tropical paradise to live in Brooklyn back then in the 70s, what a sacrifice. Our family was loud, loved, and connected. But the Puerto Ricanness was erased, almost out of reach. The only thing that really makes me feel Puerto Rican were the pasteles we would eat around the holidays. They didn't play music. Nobody was musical. And, that's really the only thing is the food, which I'm all for it. I'm looking forward to eating a lot of the food in Puerto Rico. It's actually very, very, very tasty. The pasteles were really special. That was the one thing that was foreign to me, but I knew was important. Every Christmas, my grandmother and my aunt would prepare the pasteles, and we would smell them cooking. And when they were ready to be served, everybody dug in, and it was not like anything else I had ever eaten. And here's my Aunt Judy. She was the only one born in Puerto Rico, in Aguadilla, before the family moved to Brooklyn. She spent most of her life on Long Island, in the suburbs. And my grandparents worked so hard to build this life for their kids, and yet here I am generations later, trying to find a way back to the culture they left behind. So my family gatherings growing up were loud and loving, which is exactly how you'd imagine Puerto Rican families would be. But ours was unique because there were so many deaf people in the family. Both of my parents were deaf, and on my mother's side, the Puerto Rican side, it was hereditary. Out of 15 kids, 5 were deaf. So there would be 2 groups. There would be the English-speaking group and then the sign language-speaking group. And everybody would be talking with each other. And, despite the differences, there was always this incredible sense of connection whenever we got together on holidays. But as I got older and I moved away from these gatherings, I realized how much we've lost over the generations. One of those sad losses that you don't realize at the time, and now it's too late to go back and get that information. Listening to the album from Bad Bunny, Debi, tirar más fotos, it really inspires you to connect with your elders while they're here and to visit your homeland if you can. And that's exactly what we're doing. In March, we're going to be taking a little vacation for spring break, and we're going to go to Puerto Rico, and we're not going to stay in San Juan. We're going to travel the island, and I'm going to make a point to bring the family to Aguadilla just to look around and reconnect. Visit your ancestral homeland if you can. And for me, this journey is just beginning, and I'm really excited to share it with you along the way. Definitely going to share the footage after we come back from Puerto Rico, so look for a video on that. So Bad Bunny's music doesn't just sound good. It feels like it's inspiring people to find home and acknowledging that it's okay to feel disconnected as long as you're trying to find your way back. And it's not just about the modern beats and the lyrics, which, again, I don't really understand. It's about the way his music is bridging generations, reconnecting those of us who've been adrift from the island we're from. And his music is a reminder that Puerto Rico isn't just where my story began, it's where my home is. So this is my journey. A no sabe Nuyorican, trying to make sense of it all, trying to reconnect with the roots that have always been there, waiting for me. And this spring, I'll be walking the beaches in Aguadilla. I'll be thinking about my grandparents, listening to Bad Bunny, and letting every song remind me of where I come from. And if you enjoyed this video, or you have your own stories about reconnecting with your culture, drop them in the comments below. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this.